Hello, it's Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and I just wanted to go live to talk about the submarine that went missing um, on its way to the Titanic because the astrology is so amazing that I wanted to share it. Just to let you know, I'm going to be having a Venus retrograde workshop to help people prepare, stay present, and thrive through this important transit that's coming up. The workshop is going to be on Saturday, July 1st at from 9 to 11 a.m. It's going to be on Zoom. I'm keeping the price low. It's only $22. That's a Venus treat in order to, so more people can participate if they want to. And what I'll do is go it's going to be a really fun one. While I get into Venus stuff and talk about what could be coming up in the collective, your own life, do readings for people. So you can join that. Go to astrologybyceleste.com and check out my events page. It's listed there. Also, I'm going to be in San Diego, July 14th and 15th, talking live for that astrology group down there. So if you live in the area and want to come, you can see all that on my events page as well. I'm speaking for ESAR July 9th about the moon phase families. And if you're a member, you can come to that. Or I'm going to be speaking for Synchronicity University as well about eclipses. So you can go to Synchronicity University. I'm part of the Powerhouse Women in July. And if you purchase before the end of the month, you get this great big deal. Okay, let me get going because I'm hungry. I have to eat my lunch, but I'm nerding out on this astrology, so I wanted to share it before I wasn't able to. Okay, let's see. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to present my screen, and it's sad because there are people. How well, yeah, it's sad no matter what, but I think I think it was a leak. I think it was a leak. Okay, here we go. So here is the chart for when the OceanGate submarine was launched. And it was reported around 6 a.m. from Newfoundland. So this is the chart. And the first thing that jumps out. So what we know about this story is that there are 5 people on this submarine, this vessel that is taking them down to the Titanic for a tourist expedition to see the wreckage of this ship that sank in 1912. And Sunday, when it was launched, a couple hours before it was launched, was a new moon in Gemini. Gemini rules transportation. And the new moon was squaring Neptune. Neptune, the planet of illusions, delusions, the sea. It's also the planet of leaks. So, one of the things that was said was that the Newfoundland has had the worst weather or the worst storms in like 40 years, but they felt like they had this window to launch this thing, and that it would likely be the only one for 2023. So already we know that maybe the seas were extra turbulent. Um, they probably made this decision. I mean, last week we had Mercury in Gemini square Saturn and Pisces at 7 degrees of each. So Mercury in Gemini, clear, decisive thinking, squaring Saturn and Pisces, um, letting your dream Pisces interfere with logics and reality Saturn. Yeah, to me that's like you're making up a fantasy and ignoring the reality of, all of the risks of what is going on. Anyway, and at the time of the launch, Mercury is separating from Saturn, but see, it's within 5 degrees. And like Saturn's orb, so Mercury's still carrying that Saturn hardships, difficulties, crisis energy in water, Pisces. at the time of the crash. It's 5 degrees away, and Saturn's orb, we use traditionally, like in horary, is 9 degrees, and Mercury's is 6 degrees. So they're both still feeling the energy of this. And Neptune, the planet of illusions, delusions, deception, leaks, all of that kind of stuff is at the top of the chart. And, the sun is approaching at the time a square to Neptune. Squares are activating. The sun is putting a spotlight in the 12th house of unfortunate things. The 12th house is a house of loss, a house of woes, a house of anguish of the mind. It's difficult. You don't want to put the moon in the 12th house. The moon is there as well. You don't want to put the moon in the 12th house when you're doing something, an event. What's really important when you're doing an event is to think about what is the next aspect the moon is making for an auspicious result. Now, yeah, so the moon is separating from Neptune, and it's at 29 degrees of Gemini. 29 degrees is the anaretic degree, the last degree of the sign. It's a degree of decay. It's like a crisis point where, like, it's trying to express everything about the energy of the sign before moving on. So you don't start something really at 29 degrees of where the moon's at 29 degrees, if you can help it. And the moon is in a quincunx exact to Pluto and Capricorn. Quincunxes move us into new situations. Pluto is retrograde. Pluto is the planet of catastrophe, life and death transformations. And the moon, Quincunx Pluto, yeah, move into new situations where you have to release and let go of something. It's like, yeah. So the moon, which rules the people on this ship, and Neptune and Pluto are what we call angular planets in the first house, fourth house, seventh, and 10th are the most, like, they have the most energy to they have the most energy, and Neptune and Pluto are both have malefic influences. So, you can see from the chart, this is not looking good. And a big thing about Venus, when Venus went into the sign of Leo, Leo is a sign of fun and entertainment. Venus pleasure. They're going on this pleasure. Going on this pleasure trip. Well, Venus was opposite Pluto, and when a planet ingresses, it carries the nature of the ingress chart throughout the cycle. So Venus opposite Pluto, I think part of Venus retrograde, we're going to hear a lot of stories about people going on vacation or doing something for fun, and or having a big event, and then there's some kind of plutonic thing that goes on where either it's a catastrophe, or it's like, could be deeply healing is another thing you can have with Pluto, or people undergoing major transformations, or making, like, Pluto rules non-negotiable evolutions, so that sort of thing. You can also think about Pluto eliminates. Pluto burns things down to the studs in order to be rebuilt, like the freeway, I talked about in another video. So yeah, keep that in mind throughout this whole Venus in the sign of Leo, which it'll be in Leo until October 6th, I believe. So that is a whole part of the story. Well, the thing that really nerded out, why I really nerded out on this. Oh, the other thing is the moon is the ascendant, rules the ascendant because it's a Cancer rising chart. So this moon and this crisis point of Gemini, this mutable, unstable energy separating from a square tense to Neptune, and approaching a quincunx to an a partile. It's partile to Pluto of catastrophe at the time of the launch. I mean, this is just like a catastrophe in the making. You can see from the chart. Now, the chart didn't make it sink. It's just symbolic of the fact that they launched it at, yeah, they it just I imagine it was just wishful thinking led them to, to go past to launch it even though the weather had been bad. It could have been errors about putting the ship together or something like that. Maybe they did something when Mercury was retrograde in Taurus and a bolt came loose or something like that that caused a leak. They said if there's a leak, it would implode immediately. So hopefully the people on there, if that's the case, they just died immediately and they're not just down there panicking because they supposedly have like 40 more hours of air as of this morning. So, miracles happen. Maybe they could find them, but it's not looking really good. And the Jupiter, one of the transit for yesterday, which I love this transit. So Saturn went retrograde on Saturday. So Saturn retrograde again is not a time to like be doing something like this with Saturn's retrograde because on 5 days before or after a planet changes direction, its energy is intensified. So Saturn, hardship, difficulties, toils, burden in the sign of Pisces, the sign of water, the sea, changing signs, retrograde, there's going to be more difficulties around what you're trying to do potentially if it's important in the chart. So that's another thing. But on Monday, Jupiter in Taurus sextiled Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn was applying to Jupiter, mutually applying together. So Jupiter and Taurus, I feel like, a billionaire. Taurus rules wealth. I mean, Taurus rules money, Jupiter rules wealth. So this guy, I have his name here in his chart, trine Saturn and Pisces, facing this billionaire hardship in the water. Astrology is so literal, it's unbelievable. And the thing that blew my mind about this, and I talked about this on the podcast, is that the sun is conjunct Atlantis. Um, the the lost city of Atlantis was the city of people. Plato wrote about it. It's not real in my understanding. It's like these wealthy, technologically advanced people had this civilization and they got to much hubris and such, and the gods sunk the whole city down to the bottom of the sea. And people have been looking for it in real life. There have been movies about it and whatnot. But anyway, these people going on an expedition trying to find Titanic, which very, theme of Atlantis, really, I geeked out on that. So yeah, the astrology is just incredible. Yeah. So what else did I want to say about the actual chart? Yeah. And the new moon chart is be very careful about things may not be as they appear over this lunation cycle with the new moon squaring Neptune. It could also be a powerful for creativity and that kind of stuff, or letting go of any kind of escapist tendencies. Yeah, I'm using Jupiter, the planet of abundance, sextile Saturn, to gain control Saturn over. I had my birthday last month and just went bananas celebrating, eating out, all that stuff. So I'm like working on a little cleanse. I'm doing a moon cycle with no drinking and yeah, that kind of stuff. So think about that for yourself if you want. Okay. I also wanted to look at the Titanic because I knew that the sinking of the Titanic would have some kind of relationship, the charts, with what's happening now. So if we look at, here's the sinking of the Titanic on April 15th of 1912. I probably could have found the time exact, but I didn't have time to find the time exact of the sinking of the. Oh wait, yes, I did. We do know that it's 2324, I think. I did look it up. I'm pretty sure it was 2324. Thinking of the Titanic and then the Ocean Gate sub. Okay, so the Titanic is in the inner wheel, and this event of this Ocean Gate is in the outer wheel. Look at this. So the sun, and there was a new moon at 26 Gemini. Titanic's Pluto is at 27 Gemini. So a new moon on the Pluto catastrophe in Gemini, um, a transportation catastrophe. Yeah, right there. You can see it. Yeah. And what was the other thing that really jumped out at me about this? About this. There was something else. Yeah, Neptune in the sky is squaring the Pluto of this of the launch of the Titanic to the degree partile. And was there anything else I wanted to the moon at 29. Is there anything at 29 in here? Mm, yeah, that's good enough. You can see that oh, Uranus in the sky is in a sextile with Neptune in Cancer. So Uranus, a sudden break, you know, big event, sextile the Neptune in that chart as well. And yeah, that's good enough. You get it. New moon on the Pluto squaring Neptune. Exactly. The chart of the Titanic is being activated. Exactly. And I bet James Cameron's chart is being activated as well because now he's being interviewed about this um, because of this tragedy. And we don't know a birth time for Hamish Harding, but you can see. Oh, let me swap. We don't have a birth time, so we don't know his ascendant and descendant, but you can see he's got this Gemini stellium in his chart. He's got his Mars, Venus, and Mercury at Gemini in Gemini. The moon was on his Mercury at 29 degrees of Gemini when the submarine launched. His sun, the sun in the sky on his Venus retrograde. Yes. Um, in the sun shining on his Venus. He went for fun to do this fun excursion. This was a tourist expedition. We don't know the exact degree of his moon, but this new moon might have been opposite his moon. Yeah, it could have been. It's most likely Sagittarius, but it might be in Capricorn. But a Sagittarius moon, Gemini sun, not Gemini sun, Gemini planet, Sagittarius moon, explorer, someone interested, very curious in seeking out new new things, new views. But he might have a Capricorn moon. There's a slight chance he has a Capricorn moon. But he is in his Saturn return. His Saturn is at 4 degrees of Pisces, so he's around 58, 59 years old. Saturn in the sky. I mean, his return was exact around the time of the eclipse. So this relates back to the eclipse season. Um, he has Neptune at 15 degrees of Scorpio. I wonder if he signed, well, he probably signed up for this a long time ago, but his Neptune was activated at the Scorpio lunar eclipse on June, May 5th. Eclipses have long, long, long tails. And I'm going to be talking about eclipses for Nadia Shaw's Synchronicity University. And in his chart, it's in his natal chart. Let me see if there's anything I want to say. Oh, Mars square Neptune. Mars in the sky squaring his Neptune. So, yeah, an accident Mars square Neptune and Scorpio in the sea. that's likely led to his death, most likely. Mars square Jupiter. Yeah, a big, you know, it's making a T square in his chart. And what else do I want to say? Venus in the skies. Is Venus doing anything to his chart? It's approaching a square. Let's see. No. Yeah. But I wanted to say, you see in his chart this event. Let me just, if it's not in your chart, it's not happening. Saturn in Pisces, difficulties in the sea, death in the sea, opposite Uranus, and accident. That's Pluto, a catastrophe. You can see it in his chart that way. And mm, what else did I want to say? Yeah. Mars in Gemini squaring Uranus. Mars square Uranus can be an accident, a sudden accident. So Mars, he's got Mars in a T square with Saturn opposite Uranus. So you can see that he has this potential in his chart. No, not everybody who's got this is going to die at sea, but it shows that it's a possibility in his chart. And also with the timing, Jupiter in the sky, not Jupiter, the north node in the sky is at about 1 degree, right, of Taurus in a sextile with his sun north node. Mm. We don't know the houses. If we knew the houses, it would be even more, the story would be like screaming at us about this. So very, very sad. Just keep in mind with this Venus retrograde coming up, use your intuition. If you're doing something fun, be careful. If you have any doubts, don't do it. Yeah, because there's a lot of, there's that energy for like difficulties, problems, catastrophes. Venus will square Uranus 3 times. That could be you're trying to have fun and like something goes haywire. Um, it can also be you just have like the most magical fun time at an event possible. But keep this in mind as you're going through this summer. This summer is going to go by fast. There's opportunities for lots of fun and frivolity and great times and great connections, but there's also the mishaps, are going to be happening all summer that are like, oh my God. Yeah. So don't let it be you. So take care. I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow on my Instagram live program. You can listen to the Celestial Insights podcast right here on YouTube. I talked about the new moon for the what launched yesterday. Speed Kills was the name of the podcast episode, and they rushed to go down to see this Titanic, and here we are with 5 people who are, families are going to be devastated, are quite possibly gone. So anyway, take good care of yourself. I hope you found this interesting. Check the link in my bio or go to astrologybyceleste.com to see all my events or book a reading with me. And yeah, we can talk about your natal chart and what is coming up for you. And yeah, take good care. Mm, How do I stop this?